Thanks for joining me on this Thursday. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields. Some of the breaking information on that earthquake as we get back through Panama. About 6.7 to 6.8 in magnitude. The depth about 10 kilometers. That's about average for an earthquake. And at that depth, that does typically cause damage. Here's the thing though, it did occur offshore. So that is at least some good news. But with that, no tsunami detected as of now. I'll keep an eye on this, but aftershocks will be likely. 6.7 to 6.8 in magnitude usually causes major damage if it's kind of more of an earthquake that's not as deep and again across the land, but this being offshore did help limit some of that, but we're still getting in some of those reports on that. So I'll keep an eye on Panama. Aftershocks will be likely on that. All right, let's get to the weather part of this. It is very busy. We're going to get into the Pacific side, developing hurricane. Here's the old front bringing some rain toward the Cayman Islands. Some relief though for Belize. I want to talk about that in a second. And then the heavier rain and storms through parts of Panama, Colombia over by the forest, and scattered showers and storms. A weak tropical wave about to head in to Antigua and Barbuda over toward Barbados. So again, a lot to cover. There's a lot going on. Here's that old front through the Bahamas, at least more cloud cover, and then stretching back through the Cayman Islands and Cuba. Some of this will press toward Haiti, over toward my friends in Jacmel and the Dominican Republic. This on the Pacific side, this flare up here, I'm going to dive into this with our tropical computer models in just a second. That'll swing back toward Mexico and be a big flood maker down the road. Now I want to jump over to this. This here is the Saharan Dust. Here we are in the Caribbean. There have been some pockets of that. Trinidad and Tobago, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Barbados, St. Lucia. We've had some of the extra dust around through the ABC Islands. This is going to lessen as it moves to the west, so we should get some relief of that. Not widespread dust, but we do have it in some locations. So getting to the forecast, I mentioned Belize a minute ago. That front has moved by, so rain chance lower, 30% chance, but where that front is over toward the Cayman Islands, a 70% chance of rain and storms. Jamaica over toward Falmouth, Montego Bay, Kingston, about a 50% chance of some showers and storms. Still that high chance as we get toward Panama. So Belize the next 2 days, isolated shower and storm. Not quite as hot with that front sinking by. Of course, still warm, but how about 82 degrees? A little bit of a change right there. We do get some changes this time of year in some locations. We get back toward the central and the eastern Caribbean, scattered areas of rain to isolate it. There's that tropical wave. It's not going to develop, but as it moves in, that'll give us a slightly better chance of rain down the road today. Puerto Rico, British Virgin Islands, U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, about a 30 to 40% chance of some scattered showers and storms. St. Lucia, 30 to 40% chance, about 30 degrees. It is going to stay on the toastier side and watching that breeze around throughout the day. All right, let's get a look at this. This is 2 o'clock today. This is a high resolution model showing some of the rain and storms, extra rain and storms through parts of the Bahamas, Cuba, stretching back toward Belize, but mainly, as I mentioned, just offshore. More so toward the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, still the heavier rain, Costa Rica, Panama, and Colombia, and then some spotty showers in nature, Puerto Rico, St. Lucia, Trinidad, and Tobago. We'll be seeing some of that over toward Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire. Not a guarantee we'll get some rain, but there is that chance. And as the front gets a little bit closer, the rain chance will pick up some as we get into Jamaica. You see that cluster of rain near Honduras, just offshore Belize. Belize will see it in some spots, but just offshore. This is with that front kind of nudging by, so seeing some of the rain there. This is by the time we get into later tomorrow. And then you see that chance of rain staying high as you get over toward Panama. And then we'll see spotty showers and storms starting to work in as you get toward Haiti and the Dominican Republic, over toward Puerto Rico, Jamaica, and the Virgin Islands. Scattered rain and storms with that next tropical wave kind of combining with that front this time of year. And that front up here, there may be a little storm system develop it with it, not tropical in nature, but kind of scoot up to the north. But you see that line of rain and storms here, that mix of a tropical wave and an old front. This is by the time we get into later in the week, and especially Saturday into Sunday, that rain chance picking up some Haiti and the Dominican Republic, even over toward Jamaica. All right, we get a look at some of the seas. I don't want to show you that as we get near Colombia, the wave heights are going to be picking up. This is in feet here, so we're looking at about 13 feet in some spots, 11 to 13 feet. So a little build up here. This is a 12-hour forecast with the wave heights, and with this tropical wave approaching Antigua and Barbuda. Wave heights will be increasing. We're seeing this brighter shading here, and then watching some of the higher seas with that front just off to the west of the Cayman Islands as you get back toward really north of Honduras, over toward Belize and parts of Mexico. All right, Pacific side, look how the computer models in very good agreement, bringing this, swinging this back to the west, the north, and then back to the northeast. Eventually down the road, this may get tied into a front. I do believe it will, so that'll increase the chance of rain in Texas. These are the tropical storm and hurricane wind potential, and you see this kind of, I guess, bluish greenish shading here. The bigger circles, those would be the tropical storm force winds in time. That stays offshore until we get into Sunday, and then the tropical storm force winds move on, and it does look like here, these kind of brightish purpler shadings. Down the road, this becomes a hurricane. So by Sunday, the tropical storm conditions move in, and then eventually some of the hurricane conditions, very high terrain across here. That means flash flooding will be a likelihood, but it will diminish it quickly as it works inland. Here's our high resolution tropical model that I have for you. This is today, and you see that buildup of rain and storms here, the developing system, developing tropical storm, and then as we get into tomorrow, it should become a tropical storm and very close to hurricane status at that point. Heaviest weather offshore, but some of those rain bands, the outer rain bands, causing some flooding on the South Mexico coastline. So even though it's not moving in yet, South Mexico coastline, core of this, which would be a hurricane by the time we get into Saturday, offshore, but some of those rain bands filtering in, causing some flooding, especially as they hit the higher terrain. So please seek higher ground if needed. But as we get into Sunday and Monday, that's when it pulls on shore. And then, while it doesn't really directly just shove moisture into South Texas, it will get tied into a front. So that will enhance that chance of rain as we get into South Central Texas by the time we get into early next week. That front is going to kind of draw it back into that direction. So again, a lot going on Pacific side, and then tied over into what we could see in Mexico down the road. All right, let's jump ahead. Let's get into November. The hurricane season goes through the end of November. Don't expect a ton of development this time of year. Now, what happens in November is sometimes you get something spinning out here, and usually it stays out here. You don't get things just trekking all the way across in November because there's a lot of fronts. So if something were to develop out here, it usually gets picked up. But that kind of season starts to cut off. Could see a named system well out there, but it's the old fronts that I'm going to watch out for development, especially in the Caribbean up through the Bahamas. That's where you get development as we get into the month of November. Sometimes about every other year you get a named system through here. So we still got to get through the hurricane season. So thank you for joining me. Thinking of you in Panama if you're dealing with that earthquake. I'll be monitoring that as we go throughout the day, and I'll keep you posted on any areas of flooding and, of course, that developing system out in the Pacific. Thank you for building this weather community. I hope you have a great day ahead.